Good evening and welcome to the 2022 U.S. Senate debate from South Dakota Public Broadcasting and Dakota News Now. I'm SDPB's Jackie Hendry, tonight's moderator. We're joined this evening by the three candidates running to represent South Dakota in the United States Senate. First, we welcome Republican incumbent Senator John Thune. Welcome.
Thank you.
Democratic candidate Brian Banks. Mr. Banks, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And Libertarian candidate Tamara Lesner. Ms. Lesner, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tonight's questions will come from our panel of journalists, SDPB's politics and public policy reporter Lee Strubinger and Dakota News Now morning anchor Eric Thorstensen. Before we begin, let's review tonight's rules. Each candidate has 1 minute for opening statements and 2 minutes for closing statements. Each question warrants a 90-second answer, a 60-second rebuttal from the other two candidates, and a 30-second response from the original candidate as needed. We drew the order for opening statements before tonight's broadcast. Lieutenant Colonel Bangs, the first opening statement goes to you. Your 1 minute starts now.
Hello, friends. First, I want to thank South Dakota Public Broadcasting for organizing this event. I'm retired Lieutenant Colonel Brian Bangs, a 26-year veteran of the U.S. Navy and Air Force JAG Corps. I'm a husband, a father, a teacher with experience at the Air Force Academy, the NATO School in Germany, and most recently at Northern State in Aberdeen, where I live. I'm running for the U.S. Senate because I am fed up with the hyperpartisanship and the crippling dysfunction of our government. I was a lifelong independent until I saw the January 6th attack on our Capitol. Having spent most of my adult life protecting our democracy, I got into this race because there's a lot at stake and South Dakotans deserve a choice. After 24 years in Washington, John Thune has forgotten about South Dakota values. If you believe, like I do, that money has completely corrupted our politics, and career politicians who spend decades in Congress stop caring about regular folks, then I ask you to lend me the power of your vote so I can raise some hell in the Senate on behalf of us forgotten Americans.
Senator Thune, your 1 minute opening statement.
Thanks, Jackie, and thanks to South Dakota Public Television and to Dakota News Now for giving us the opportunity to debate the issues that are important to South Dakota's and our country's future. We've gotten a lot done in the last few years. We defended and protected Ellsworth Air Force Base from closing, paved the way for new mission opportunities, including the B-21 bomber. We helped our agricultural producers strengthen the safety net when they face hard times. We increased internet services, high-speed internet services across South Dakota for distance learning, for precision agriculture, for telemedicine. And we cut taxes across the board for American families and small businesses to allow those small businesses and families here in South Dakota to invest here and to continue to make this a great place to work and to live and to raise families. We're facing some headwinds. The all-Democrat government in Washington, D.C. has given us 40-year high inflation, a broken border, crime on our streets, and an assault on American energy. We have got to put a check and balance on the Biden administration's policies to get this country back on track.
Ms. Lesner, your opening statement, 60 seconds.
Hi, I'm Tamara Lesnar. I was born and bred in Chicago, but I have been coming up to South Dakota ever since I was a baby. My ancestors moved up here during the Homestead Act, and I worked on my grandfather's farm, and now my uncle's farm, and also my great uncle's farm when used to stack hay in cages and ground the feed and pick those rocks every year. South Dakota is in my soul. It always has been. It's always been a place where I can come and recuperate from the stresses of the city, and I knew I wasn't ever going to stay in Chicago. I have 17 years of education behind me, and I graduated from NDSU with a baccalaureate in science focusing on zoology. Some of the classes that I take to bring in here would be social sciences, biological sciences, macro and microeconomics, psychology. Yep. Thank you.
We also drew order for tonight's first question that goes to Mr. Bangs. This first question from Lee Strubinger.
Mr. Bangs, inflation is top of mind for many South Dakota voters. We continue to deal with high prices from the grocery store to gas stations. What is the Senate's role in helping to curb inflations, and what steps will you take?
Okay, well, I first want to begin by saying that I feel your pain, everybody. Whenever I'm going to the grocery store with my wife, we notice the increased prices. Filling up the gas tank, we notice the increased prices. The pain in our wallet is the same that you experience. Now, moving on, there is no magic silver bullet for inflation. John Thune's not going to tell you that, hey, this magic thing will do it, because we cannot shoot it and make it go away right now. We are all struggling with the cost to fill up our gas tanks. Energy costs permeate the system. So the cost of energy impacts pretty much everything else in our daily life. And what we know is that big oil companies are making record profits, literally record profits. So what we're going to hear is that John Thune needs a boogeyman. He needs a boogeyman. The big oil companies have given him nearly $500,000 to his campaign. His 2015 vote to end the export ban on American crude oil that was in place since 1977, put in place because of the original OPEC oil embargo, is also a big factor here. So when we think of South Dakota values, we think of helping friends, we think of helping neighbors that are in need. Washington John Thune is being on the big oil payroll. So fundamentally, lowering energy prices is what we need to do.
Senator Thune, 60 seconds on the Senate's role to curb inflation.
That's right. We got to lower energy prices by creating more supply in this country. And when this administration took power, they shut down infrastructure, pipelines. They took federal lands out of production. They refused to issue permits to drill. And they pressured businesses not to invest in energy production in this country. And what do we have to show for it? When President Biden took office, the average price for a gallon of gasoline in South Dakota is $2.39. It's $3.71 today. We have seen the cost of everything go up because energy is baked into everything. And so we need an energy policy, and all of the above energy policy that focuses on American energy independence and allowing our energy producers to get off the sidelines and back in the game. It's as simple as that. And if we do that, we'll see energy prices start to come down again. And the other thing on inflation is we've got to quit the spending. I mean, the Democrats in Washington have gone crazy. This all-Democrat government, House, Senate, and White House, have mortgaged South Dakotas and America's future.
Ms. Lesnar, 60 seconds.
Yes. Well, first of all, John Thune has this incorrect. The things that contributed to inflation were the pandemic, war, supply chain interruption, what I like to call the Great National Labor Strike, and Big Corp controlling the production and supply and pricing of consumables that we use. Now, John Thune wants to blame one party or one president for all the spending and everything, but John Thune has been in office since the 107th Congress to today, and he contributed with those tax cuts a amount of 19 $20.2 trillion to our national deficit ever since he's been in office. He is not the way to go with regarding the deficit and inflation.
Mr. Bangs, would you like 30 seconds to respond?
I would, thank you. In 2017, Senator Thune helped pass a $1.8 trillion tax cut. He bragged about it. 99% of the benefits went to the top 1%. The top 1%. Democrats passed the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, with the tax cuts going to the working families. John Thune's tax cuts for the ultra-rich ballooned the debt by nearly $2 trillion. It was an excuse to cut Social Security and Medicare, which was always Thune's plan.
Can I respond to that?
We'll have to move on to our next question to allow for the rules.
All right, our next question. This is for Senator Thune. The recent decision by the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade has thrust abortion rights back into the national spotlight. Many states now grappling with a decision on how to legislate abortions. Senator Thune, you have indicated support for a bill that would ban abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. If that bill lands on the floor of the Senate, will you vote in favor of it?
I will. That particular piece of legislation is consistent with what 47 out of 50 European nations have in place, or they go even lower than that in terms of when they ban abortions. Right now, under Roe, it's going back to the states. There aren't 60 votes in the Senate to pass anything right now, but the Democrats forced a vote this summer, as recently as June, on a piece of legislation that is so extreme. The only countries in the world that subscribe to this are China, North Korea, and Iran. What did that bill do? It not only codified Roe, it went way beyond it. It allowed abortions up to the point of birth, paid for by the taxpayers, and eliminated all 535 state regulations that it had put in place. So overrides and abolishes all state laws and regulations. It eliminated the conscience protection for providers who have religious objections to performing abortions. This is the most extreme piece of legislation I have ever seen come across the Senate floor. And the reason I know that is because there are 2 Republicans in the Senate who would vote to codify Roe. They didn't even vote for this. And that's what the Democrats in the Senate are trying to get done. So there's probably going to be a debate at some point at the national level because the Democrats are going to force it. Right now, it's going to be decided at the states. If, in fact, there is a debate, I think the 15-week ban is a reasonable place to land, and it's consistent with what 47 out of 50 European states, European countries already do.
Ms. Lesnar, 60 seconds.
Well, first of all, what Senator Thune is suggesting is actually take away your rights and your freedoms. It is between the person who is pregnant, their family, and the doctor to decide what is right for that person. No government should ever be involved in telling you what you can do with your body, nor your autonomy. So I support no legislation regarding a ban on abortion. And no matter how you feel about abortion itself, if you're pro-choice or pro-life, that is your choice. You do not need to be in other people's business when it comes to abortion or any other medical decision.
Mr. Banks, 60 seconds.
Okay. Well, let me be clear. I support a woman's right to choose, full stop. There you go. After praising states' rights choices, Senator Thune, when the Dobbs decision was announced, he came out very much in favor, saying, this is long overdue, we've been waiting for this, and it's time for the states to decide. Now that we've seen states such as Kansas embrace and protect the right for women to decide for themselves, he's taken the stance that, no, maybe the federal government should be involved. So he's now had a conflicting opinion where he said, oh, the Democrats want to override state laws. But he has now just endorsed a federal ban after 15 weeks because, oh, that's what the Europeans do. Americans must follow what the Europeans do. So he's now got an internally conflicting position about overriding states' laws. Fundamentally, career politicians should not make health decisions. A decision on abortion should be between a woman and her doctor, not a woman and John Thune, and that's the truth.
Senator Thune, 30 seconds.
The most extreme position I have ever seen in my time in public life is the one he endorsed along with the Democrat leadership in the United States Senate. Abortion up to the point of birth, when a baby is born, financed by the taxpayers and without any religious conscious protections, and abolishing all 535 state laws that regulate abortions. That is extreme. 15 weeks is consistent with where the rest of the civilized world is, with the exception of China, North Korea, and Iran. Your position.
Our next topic is the political divide. This question from Lee Strubinger.
Ms. Lesnar, whatever the cause, the gulf between the right and the left appear wider than it has in years. Do you believe it's possible to work with lawmakers across the aisle, and how would you go about doing that in today's political climate?
Yes, actually, this discourse has really ruined our country, and both parties are unwilling to negotiate with each other. For me, I am tripartisan. You cannot get the people's work done when you're constantly arguing back and forth across the aisle and bringing up subjects like Mr. Potato Head. That's not the people's work. I plan to actually bring in a common sense attitude towards lawmaking. I plan to try to bridge this gap that these two parties have created, and I want to bring them back together again. And actually do the work, because America is really tired of what you are doing, John Thune. They really are, and they deserve a lot better than what you have given them. Even to the fact that you won't even call out the Republicans who are calling for violence. You are second in command there, and you are doing nothing but allowing this to happen. You're allowing Americans to hate other Americans, and that is not what America is.
We'll move to Mr. Banks first for the 60 seconds.
Okay. Well, let me say that I've been a lifelong independent until last year when I decided to run for office. I believe in politics with principle. If you don't anchor yourself to the principles, you're adrift in the sea of partisanship, which is where we find ourselves now. The hyper-partisanship is an existential threat to our country. I think we've all seen that over the last several years. So I'm quite happy to vote for, should I be elected, vote for anything that anybody puts forward that I think is beneficial to the people of South Dakota. Fundamentally, I'm going to represent the people of South Dakota, not a particular partisan party. So, you know, John Thune, if you had the secret Republican health care plan that would replace Obamacare, and if it was a better deal for South Dakotans, I would vote for it immediately. I don't care who it came from. I'm quite happy to work with anybody. So there's my take on it.
Senator, 60 seconds.
Well, the first vote my Democrat opponent would cast in the Senate would be to make Chuck Schumer the leader in the United States Senate. That would be really, really bad for South Dakota. And just think about it. Well, we've had now 2 years of the Biden administration and an all-Democrat Washington. They have unified control of the government. They have the House, the Senate, and the White House. And what do we have? The highest inflation in 40 years. The average American family today is spending $9,000 more a year for the same basic necessities that they bought last year. $9,000. That's a $9,000 tax on every South Dakota family. You got a broken border. 2.3 million people illegally came across the border, were apprehended at the border last year. That doesn't include the 600,000 or so gotaways. You've got crime in our streets. You have an attack and assault on American energy companies in this country and American energy production that is driving up the cost of all forms of energy. That's what an all-Democrat Washington has gotten you. It's time to put a check and balance in place and change the direction of the country.
30 seconds, Ms. Lesnar.
Well, you know, John, I'm sorry, but you didn't really answer the question. You went back to actually doing a campaign stump. So I'd like to know myself how you're going to bridge this gap and stop this fighting between the two parties. You did not answer that.
Senator, I'll give you 20 seconds.
Okay, well, look, I work all the time across party lines. Amy Klobuchar and I passed a bill this summer, the Ocean Shipping Reform Act, that targets the supply chain problems at our ports. We moved it through the Commerce Committee, across the floor of the Senate. I work with Democrat senators all the time. One of the most liberal Democrat senators, Ed Markey from Massachusetts. He and I teamed up on a bill a couple of years ago to ban most robocalls in this country. We haven't got enough of them banned, unfortunately, but we got a lot of them banned. I work with Democrats all the time when it comes to getting things done for the state of South Dakota, and 4 farm bills is probably the best example of that.
We'll move on to our next question from Eric Thorstensen.
This question for Senator Thune. You battled against raising the debt ceiling during the financial crisis. Senator Thune. You battled against raising the debt ceiling during the financial crisis of the Obama administration. You supported raising the debt ceiling significantly during the Trump administration and the COVID crisis. Now, once again, you oppose raising the debt ceiling during the Biden administration. What is the impact on everyday Americans when the debt ceiling becomes a partisan issue?
Well, it shouldn't be a partisan issue. Typically what happens is whoever is in the majority ends up delivering the votes to pass the debt limit. It's not a popular vote that anybody likes to make. And we've got too much debt and too much spending in this country. And they just doubled down on it in the last 2 years. $1.9 trillion for the American Rescue Plan. Totally put on the debt. Financed, put on the debt, handed the bill to our children and grandchildren. The bill that passed in August, the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, another $750 billion, the most of which will get added to the debt. The infrastructure bill, $1.2 trillion, most of what was financed with the debt. The CHIPS bill, another $400 billion. And now the president wants to forgive all student loans. That's another $500 to $1 trillion. My Democrat opponent is in favor of all that stuff. That's $5 trillion right there that we're adding to the debt. It is time for us to get serious about not only dealing with deficits and debt, but also dealing with inflation. And what drives inflation is the out-of-control spending in Washington, D.C. These bills have flooded the zone with so much money, and the textbook definition of inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods. And that's exactly what we have. 40-year high inflation. Every South Dakota family is paying more than $9,000 a year this year for the same basic necessities that they bought last year.
Ms. Lesnar, 60 seconds.
You know, John, you are a piece of cake. First of all, in the whole time you've been in Congress, you have added up to $19.2 trillion to the deficit. You have given big corporations huge tax breaks. The most profitable corporations have a total revenue of $520.1 billion in the fiscal year of 2021. If they paid that 35% tax without all the cuts they get, the accelerated depreciation, and many other cuts they have, they would contribute to the revenue $182.03 billion in tax revenue. But you keep voting in favor of them. And
That's time. Mr. Bangs, 60 seconds.
Okay, everybody. I'm gravely concerned about the fiscal course of our country. The debt is going to impact our children and grandchildren. We know that. We cannot continue to kick the can down the road. We know that too. We must return to paying down the debt as we were prior to 2001. I support repealing John's 3 tax cuts for the ultra-rich that he's enacted over the last 2 decades. Now, Washington John Thune talks a big game about fiscal responsibility. You just heard it here now. When he first went to Washington, it's good to know that the debt was less than $6 trillion. So 24 years later, the debt is up to over $30 trillion. Thanks, John. John Thune can talk fiscal responsibility. Again, we just heard that. But he's done nothing other than cutting taxes for the ultra-rich and the large corporations. Now, South Dakota values would suggest that Washington John, serving only his big money donors, that they're not in line with our South Dakota values.
Senator, 30 seconds.
So let's make one thing very clear. Corporate tax revenues are up, record levels. We haven't seen this since the year 2000 because we lowered taxes, people invested, took realizations, and they're paying more taxes. We've had, the last 2 years, record tax revenues. It's not a revenue issue. It's a spending issue. And I just enumerated $5 trillion that he and his Democrat friends in Washington, D.C. are for. Added to the debt, not paid for. Tax revenues are up. It's a spending problem.
We move on now to agriculture. This next question from Lee Strubinger.
Mr. Banks, South Dakota farmers and ranchers are dealing with several issues outside of their control, from inflation to market instability to drought. What will you do to help support the state's biggest industry?
Well, the biggest problem that we have in agriculture is also the biggest problem we have in the economy in general, and that is corporate consolidation. We have 4 meatpacking companies that control 85% of the market in the United States. And what they're doing is exploiting their market power. They've recently been sued for price fixing, and one of them settled for it. They're working together to cheat the farmers and ranchers out of a fair price for the hard work that they do raising the cattle. And then they're doing their business, packing the meat and creating a product, and then they're gouging the consumers on the back end. So really what we need for not just the agricultural situation is a robust antitrust effort in this country. The antitrust laws on the books now could be used to much, much greater detail, but fundamentally, if they're not sufficient for the 21st century industry, then I would look into the prospect of developing a whatever fixes the Department of Justice thinks is necessary to the antitrust laws to make them more enforceable today. And then working with the president to ensure that the Department of Justice takes a proactive approach in dealing with antitrust issues such as the meat packers.
Senator Thune, 60 seconds on supporting agriculture.
And I don't disagree with that. I think I think the antitrust issues need to be looked at. And I've spearheaded an investigation asking from members of Congress with the Justice Department to look at the issue of antitrust and how it's impacting concentration in our agricultural marketplace. That investigation's underway. Hopefully we'll have some findings and some results. And if we need to make changes in antitrust laws, we should. When it comes to agriculture, I have focused as a member of the Senate Ag Committee, worked on 4 different farm bills now on pretty much all 12 titles of every farm bill, and there are 12 titles, but focusing specifically on the safety net provisions. Crop insurance, the commodity title, and the disaster programs to make sure that they function and work effectively for South Dakota agriculture when times get hard. And we've had a lot of success. The last farm bill, I had 20 proposals included in the 2018 farm bill. We're starting the 2023 farm bill this next year. The current one expires on September 30th, and I expect to be fully involved in all the issues.
Ms. Lesnar, 60 seconds.
I actually agree with both of them, but I would like to bring out a couple other things, which is we need to take a more active role in our environment because this is also hurting our ranchers and our farmers and our pork producers. We also need to allow people to be able to fix their own equipment with whoever they choose to. We need to stop corporations from patenting seeds, which is a natural source that has been given to all of us. And we also have to address the origin of country labeling. Because we're not doing that in America, and we're allowing other meats from other places to be processed here and then say it's American. And we also have to protect farmers from pipelines that should not be on their farms that actually will cause toxic results.
Mr. Bangs, 30 seconds.
Okay, well, I'm going to echo a lot of what she just said. Country of origin labeling, we absolutely need to get that done. That's been talked about going back to the days when John Thune was first running for the House. So why it's not done now, your guess is as good as mine. But right to repair, again, I support that. Farmers need the ability to repair things and not be locked out of the warranty. And the CO2 pipeline, for example, that Ms. Lesnar brought up, I support farmers in the sense that they should not be subject to the use of eminent domain to have a pipeline across their property that they don't want.
We'll move on now to border security. Eric?
All right, this question for Senator Thune. You've been an outspoken critic of President Biden's handling of immigration at the U.S.-Mexico border. How would you balance strengthening border security policies while also upholding the human rights of those seeking asylum in the U.S.?
I don't know how you can look at immigration policy today and say it is an absolute disaster. This administration has turned a blind eye and a deaf ear to what's happening at the border, and the best evidence of that is the fact that neither the President or the Vice President of the United States has been to the border. 2.3 million people, a record number, were illegally apprehended at the border this last year. 100 of those were on the terrorist watch list. This is a national security issue, and they are not paying a lick of attention to it. Now, I've met with Border Patrol officials down there, and they have a number of solutions, and they tried to pass those on to the Biden administration. Again, the Biden administration ignored their suggestions. But this is a crisis that has to be solved, and it needs the attention of the top leadership in this country. It's not happening. So what do they need? They need more personnel. And instead of sending 87,000 new IRS agents around the country harassing American taxpayers, we offered an amendment on the floor when that bill was being debated to send more to the border, where we have a major disaster. And it was voted down by Democrats in the Senate. Secondly, they need technology. They've got their technological walls, things they can do. And finally, they need infrastructure. They need a wall. This president quit building the wall. The Border Patrol people will tell you the wall works. There are solutions. They are simple solutions. They are long overdue.
Ms. Lesnar, 60 seconds.
Well, first of all, I would like to correct John Thune's number. He says 2.3 million people have been stopped, but he's not telling you that there are repeat offenders who have come in again. So that number is actually skewed. The border is very important to me, and the way I see it is that John Thune knew that there was destabilization in Central America. He knew this way ahead of time, as well as everybody else in the executive branch and the legislative branch, and they did nothing to get themselves prepared for this. There was no preemptive plan, and so now he's complaining about it. But what we need is more judges to deal with the immigration. We need more visas for working, and we also need to.
That's time. Mr. Bangs, 60 seconds.
Okay, I agree with pretty much, again, what most of Ms. Lesnar said. But I also 100% agree that we have a problem on the southern border. Senator Thune and I just have different opinions on how to approach it. Now, the difference between me and Senator Thune is that Senator Thune has been in office for quite a while, so he and Mitch McConnell have had full control of the House and the Senate and the executive branch, the presidency, for a number of times over his term in Congress. They did not get anything done. He did not accomplish anything during that time. So complaining about it is what he's good at, but doing something about it apparently is not what he's good at. If he can't get the job done, it's time for someone else to give it a try. In 2013, a bipartisan group of senators put forward an immigration bill that would address a lot of what he's complaining about. And if I'm elected, I'm going to go down into the Senate basement and rummage around in the boxes, see if I can find it, dust it off, bring it back up, and let's talk about it.
30 seconds, Senator.
There's never been a more direct correlation between bad policy decisions and bad outcomes at the border. This administration, when they took office, the border was under control. It was under control until they took office and reversed every single policy, including Remain in Mexico, which allowed a lot of those cases to be adjudicated in Mexico before they got to our border. They quit building the wall, they quit deportations, and they quit enforcing the law. These are simple issues that can be addressed in a very simple way, and everybody wants to make it very complicated.
We'll move on now to the drug crisis. This question from Lee Strubinger.
Ms. Lesnar, as we mentioned during our U.S. House debate, the CDC reports more than 250 Americans die every day from a drug overdose. 75% of those deaths involve at least one opioid. What work will you do to address the rising drug addiction crisis in America?
Well, the first thing we need to do is stop making legislation that's making people's life harder, that puts excessive stress on them so that they go to seek these drugs to take. Now, they have a personal responsibility. They are held accountable for what they do, but I do support the legalization of recreational marijuana. The studies actually have shown, and I've looked at many studies since I am a scientist, that that marijuana alone does not create the effects that the Republicans would like you to believe. And what happens is every time the government makes a drug illegal, somebody comes up with something that's even more dangerous, like meth. And the cheaper the drug is to get, that is what they're going to buy. So we need to look at this in a different way, which is trying to help these people with drug addiction, making their lives easier, allowing them to have families, allowing them pays that would actually bring them into a better psychological place. So all this is psychological from the beginning. And the more you try to have war on drugs, the more you fail. You need to address the problem by giving them options to get help.
Mr. Banks, 60 seconds.
Okay, it is worth highlighting that the opioid problem in this country was caused by the legal sale of drugs developed by big pharmaceutical companies. The Sackler family recently settled for multiple billions of dollars for their role in maximizing this, in making it accessible and trying to get people addicted because, hey, there's money to be made. There's money to be made. Big Pharma needs to be held accountable, and we should not just bow to the, hey, is there money to be made, and ignore it as the problem grows and sucks in people who are living a life of desperation. We need to help people, and by helping people get jobs and get an education and improve their lives and live the best life they can, they're not going to be tempted to go into the use of these drugs that help them forget the lives that they're trapped in. So fundamentally, we need to do a better job in making sure that we're not just bowing to whatever makes money.
Senator Thune, 60 seconds.
The number one killer of people in this country between the ages of 18 and 45 is fentanyl. The number one origin of fentanyl is the southern border. And I've heard from law enforcement officials all across South Dakota. I've talked to the folks here in this community, in Sioux Falls, in Rapid City, in points in between, who say that most of the crime that's happening in South Dakota starts with drugs. And fentanyl and other types of harmful drugs are flowing across the southern border, as are weapons, human trafficking, cartel activity. There is all kinds of malign stuff coming across that southern border. I think we all appreciate people who come to this country because they want a better life. But there are so many cartels and traffickers that are taking advantage of what's going on there. There were almost 1,000 people this last year who died trying to cross that border. It is neither humane nor compassionate to allow this to continue. And that's where we start, is cut off the supply of these drugs. And they're coming across the southern border.
Ms. Lesnar, 30 seconds.
Well, actually, the drugs are coming across the sea, through the air, and yes, some do come across the border, but that is where most of them are coming from, also through trucking. So if you can't address it from that level and only through just the border, you're not going to get anywhere because they're still going to come in. The best thing to do is to give the people the help they need.
Our next topic is election integrity. This question from Eric Thorstensen.
This one for Senator Thune. Election integrity has remained a heated topic after former President Donald Trump claimed fraud following his loss in 2020. Senator Thune, you publicly drew Trump's ire after you said it was time to move on from the election. What would you say to South Dakotans who believe the 2020 election was stolen and are worried it would happen again?
Well, I've been very clear in my position about that, going back to the 2020 election. And in the aftermath of that election, there were all the normal things that are done in the aftermath of an election. There were audits, there were recounts, there were lawsuits that were filed. And all of that came back and said there wasn't anything that would have overturned the election in any one state. Were there isolated examples of fraud? Yes, there always are in every election. But in the 2020 election, there wasn't anything that would have changed the outcome in any state. And so the states, when they were done, they certified. They sent it to the Electoral College. The Electoral College voted. And after that happens, all that is left for Congress to do is to count the votes. We have purely a ministerial responsibility. And we fulfilled that responsibility, notwithstanding what happened on January 6th. But we need people to have confidence and trust in our elections in this country. And that's why, as a leader, I have tried to encourage people to trust our institutions, particularly our elections, which are so foundational to our democracy. And we do it right here in South Dakota. But what we don't need is a federal takeover of elections, which is what the Washington Democrats want to do. We have a decentralized system that distributes power, makes it that much harder for foreign countries to hack into our election systems. We have great election integrity here in South Dakota. We have a bunch of county auditors and a Secretary of State's office who work really hard to make sure that's the case, and we should keep it that way.
Ms. Lesnar, 60 seconds.
Well, I have complete faith in our election system. In 2020, there were only approximately 1,350 cases of proven fraud. South Dakota, since 2005, has only had 5 cases, and those were mostly for ballot petition and 1 for double voting. everybody has a right to vote, and John Thune is very much in step with trying to make it harder for people to vote, and the Constitution guarantees that right. So I have complete faith. I do understand that you voters, and some of you voters do feel that the election was stolen. I do understand your concerns, and I do want to validate that, and I would take those concerns into consideration and look into it for you.
Mr. Bangs, 60 seconds.
Okay, well, I want to thank John Thune for coming out and not quite clearly, but seemingly indicating that he believes that Joe Biden is the legitimate president of the United States at this point. But I also want to point out that he made a point by saying that efforts to ensure that not just in South Dakota, but in all states, that everybody's vote can be counted and then they have the right to vote and it's not being deprived from them, that the federal takeover of state elections, that's not a federal takeover. The Constitution grants the federal government the power to specify certain election standards. And in doing so, it is not a federal takeover. I do want to pivot here to a little bit that a majority of the Americans support term limits because our government is failing us. And the big part of that is career politicians like John Thune. I am proud to say that I've signed the term limits pledge, and I will only serve 2 terms if elected. And I'm not taking 1 cent of corporate PAC money. In South Dakota, John Thune agreed with this back in 1996 when he first started running for office.
Senator, 30 seconds.
When we have term limits for Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, I'll be happy to have term limits for the people of South Dakota.
All right.
But until that happens, we need to make sure that we got somebody in there that can punch with the big dogs, and that's what I do on a daily basis. We need elections that are decentralized, that continue and maintain and preserve the tradition in this country, which doesn't mean having the federal government take over elections. And that is what the Democrat bill did. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing else. It's that simple.
Our next topic tonight is health care. This question from Lee Strubinger.
Ms. Lesnar, nursing homes in rural areas around the country are closing due to poor funding and understaffing, especially here in South Dakota. Some facilities have turned to travel nursing agencies to fill gaps in staffing, but those agencies are very costly. Is there a federal solution to the staffing shortage in long-term care?
Well, first of all, we need to get back into investing in our people, education, and health. By doing that, especially with the Medicaid proposal coming up, you will find that if the Medicaid passes, the number of uninsured people will drop significantly. Approximately 45,000 people will be insured. The long-term net effects on the state's economy and budget are positive and estimated to be $9 million net revenue increase in South Dakota. It's also estimated that an additional 4,000 plus jobs would be created in South Dakota, and it's estimated that $1.1 billion in personal income growth would happen in South Dakota. So health is very important to me. It's what I call the Trinity, which is family, health, and education, because if you don't have all 3 of those, you will not have a sustainable economic future for America.
Mr. Bangs, 60 seconds on a federal solution to staffing shortages in long-term care.
Okay, well, I'm going to echo the comments of Ms. Lesnar again. Medicaid expansion would literally save thousands of lives in South Dakota. We have literally the most expensive medical care system in the world per capita. Medical debt is the leading cause of personal bankruptcy. So if we pass the Medicaid expansion, and I've already voted for it, our uninsured rate would be literally cut in half. 24% of rural hospitals in South Dakota are at risk of closing, and 10% of all South Dakota rural nursing homes have closed within the last 5 years. Now, for Medicaid expansion, we're already paying taxes for this. John Thune opposes this because of politics. In addition to health care situations, I would also cap the price of insulin at $35 a month. The price of insulin's gone up 1,000% since 1999, and we could have capped insulin prices for every American, but John Thune voted against this after receiving $2,500 from insulin maker Eli Lilly 5 days before casting his vote.
60 seconds, Senator.
Well, there are solutions to the healthcare crisis in this country, and probably one of the most successful ones I've seen in my lifetime was Medicare Part D. It's the only federal program I know of in my time in public life that actually has cost less than what it was projected to cost. And the reason for that is because it introduced competition. It gave people choices and options, and competition was introduced, and it drove prices down. What we don't need is a federal takeover of healthcare. Since Obamacare passed, South Dakota health insurance premiums have gone up 123%. And we used to have multiple options to choose from here in South Dakota. Now we're down to a couple. That model of healthcare simply doesn't work. Now, I'm all for, we've got to do things to address the shortage of workers that we have in our long-term care facilities, and they are a Medicare and Medicaid. Those are important programs. They support those types of institutions. But a healthcare solution that has the federal government taking it over would be a disaster.
Ms. Lesnar, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I do agree with some of the points that Senator Thune has brought up. But with the expansion of the Medicare, we actually will be able to bring back those people who work in the nursing home facilities. And again, it would bring a big economy back to South Dakota, even more than it is now, so that we can provide these institutions.
Our next topic is Veterans Affairs. This question from Eric Thorstensen.
Senator Thune, you initially voted against what's known as the PACT Act. You eventually voted for it. You said you were concerned that expanding benefits for veterans exposed to toxins would overwhelm the VA. What steps are you taking to expand the VA's operational capacity to serve the millions of veterans who are newly eligible for treatment and compensation?
Good question. And that really was the issue. Whether or not they were going to have the capacity. And it was pretty clear they didn't. They were going to be overwhelmed. They're already overwhelmed. They can't keep up with the backlog of claims today. And so we did work to try and get some issues addressed in the PACT Act. The PACT Act ultimately passed. I voted for it. We're always going to take care of our vets. They know that. I've been working with our veterans here in South Dakota my entire time in office. They know I've got their back. But the issue with the PACT Act simply was, is the VA going to be able to manage this? And so, yes, we raised the issues. When they came back to the Senate for a final vote, we got a couple of amendments considered. We worked with the VA, talked to the Secretary, and made it clear that they need to have a plan in place that will ensure that all the veterans that are now going to be accessing this system are going to be able to get the care that they need and to get the claims process that they need. This has been an ongoing problem. One of the, I would say, the biggest issues that my staff works with here in South Dakota, both in all the South Dakota offices, is just claims with the VA, trying to plow through the bureaucracy and the red tape and make sure that our vets are getting the care that they deserve. I fought for our vets. We had the Mission Act, the Choice Act, expanding telemedicine, community care, giving them more access to services. We're going to fight for our veterans because they fought for us.
Ms. Lesnar, 60 seconds.
Well, I'm going to say this. John Thune has increased the budget for the military year after year after year. Now, that money could go towards creating more VA hospitals, more facilities to handle disabilities and mental health issues. We need to take care of our homeless vets. We have veterans killing themselves at huge numbers, and we are not addressing that mental issue for them. We are just wasting money when we really could be helping these people who have fought so bravely for your freedoms. And I do come from a military family. I support them 100%, and we need to do a lot more with that budget money for them.
Mr. Bangs, 60 seconds.
All right, everybody needs to be aware that South Dakota is one of 12 states in this country that do not have a single veteran in our congressional delegation. Not a single one. Nobody's ever worn a uniform a day in their life. Even on this stage, I'm the only one who's worn a uniform. I've worn a uniform of 2 different branches. I've spent most of my adult life serving our country with my colleagues in other branches. You know, when John Thune says that he has our vets back, voting against the PACT Act, not once, but twice, it seems like I don't want you to have my back. It seems like you had a knife. That made me stupendously angry as a veteran for my colleagues, for my comrades, to have to know that a senator from the United States of South Dakota, a state with a higher than the national average veteran population, voted against helping them with life-saving care because it might be administratively inconvenient.
Senator, 30 seconds.
We passed it out of the Senate, and we got the opportunity to fix it, which is the opportunity we didn't have the first time it went through. And I voted for it. I said, we're going to take care of our vets. If our vets have been exposed to toxic substances, we're going to cover it. And this legislation does that. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try and make it better, that we shouldn't try and address as it goes through the process the problems that are clearly going to happen with a system that is already swamped and already overwhelmed. South Dakota veteran organizations know where I stand. They know I've got their back.
That's all the time we have for questions, so we move on now to our closing statements. We drew the order for these closing statements before tonight's broadcast. This is your last opportunity to speak. Senator Thune, you'll go first. 2-minute closing statement starts now.
Thank you, and thanks to South Dakota Public Television and to Dakota News Now for giving us the opportunity to discuss these issues. As I said at the outset, in the last few years, we got a lot done for South Dakota. If you look at the record of accomplishment we put up, from defending and protecting Ellsworth Air Force Base from closure, to paving the way for new mission opportunities, including the B-21 bomber, which is coming out there now with 3 squadrons. If you look at what we've done for agriculture, 4 farm bills. I've worked in the last farm bill, got 20 provisions included in that legislation that was signed into law by the President. If you look at what we've done for high-speed internet services across South Dakota that enable telemedicine and distance learning and allowing people to work from home, there are so many things that happened. When I was chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, we got over 100 legislative proposals signed into law, a big record of accomplishment. If you just look at all the things that we've done when it comes to taking care of South Dakota's working families, it's a long record. We cut taxes for working families and for small businesses in South Dakota. I was one of the lead people who was involved in negotiating that, making sure that pass-through businesses, which is 99% of South Dakota businesses, got relief so that they could continue to invest in good-paying jobs right here in South Dakota. We got a long record of accomplishment. But there's a lot more that needs to be done. As I mentioned at the outset, too, we have a unified Democrat government in Washington. They have the House, the Senate, and the White House. What do we have to show for it? 40-year high inflation that's costing the average South Dakota family more than $9,000 a year this year than it cost for the same basic necessities last year. We have a broken southern border, an issue we've covered extensively tonight. We have an assault and an outright attack on American energy production in this country. And we have crime in our streets because we have an administration that doesn't seem to be real fond at times of law enforcement. We have got to change the direction of this country, put a check and balance against the Biden administration's reckless, radical policies on Tuesday. I'm asking for your vote.
Ms. Lesnar, 2 minutes starts now.
Well, first of all, I want you to realize that America is like a 3-car train. We have the Democrats and the Republicans, and they are the engines. And we are in the car in the middle. And what's happening is we're being pulled apart and we're being forgotten about. Now, I've listened to Thune through this whole debate, and he constantly wants to bring up the Democrats, but the Republicans have done just as much damage as Democrats have. Thune wants to talk about who's holding office all the time. And the whole time that he has been in Congress, the Republicans have held the House 7 times compared to 4 times the Democrats. So this is what I want to bring to the table. I want to bring civil, objective decision-making and I want to protect your rights, your freedoms, and your property. I want to create a tax code that eliminates big corp breaks. I want to enforce anti-monopoly laws. I want to hold members of each branch of Congress accountable for violations of the constitutions and calls for violence. I want to invest in family, education, and health. I want to protect the environment, plus much more. The other thing I want to do is broker a peace deal between the Democrats and the Republicans. We need not be chained to a two-party system. And they are like the iceberg, and I am that chip in the iceberg. If you continue with the way this two-party system is happening, you are going to remain with the same thing year after year. So I know that I can do the job, and I know that Thune thinks that he's the only one who can do this job, but both Bangs and I are just equally qualified.
Mr. Bangs, 2-minute closing statement.
Okay, thank you. Listen, friends, how you cast your vote boils down to one simple question. What has John Thune done to make your life better since the last time we sent him to Washington? Think about that for a minute. Sure, he's a pretty man we get to see standing behind Mitch McConnell and following orders. But in my visits with regular folks from every county and reservation in our state, that question always leaves people stumped. Now, I don't have an answer to it either, but I can tell you how Washington John Thune sells us out. In 2006, South Dakota John introduced the Gas Price Reduction Act. Now, after taking over $400,000 from big oil, Washington John is silent about oil companies pulling their record profits directly out of your pocket. John Thune yaps about inflation, we heard it tonight, but he stays silent about food companies jacking their prices well beyond inflation to pull extra profits out of your pocket. With the most expensive prescription drugs in the world, Big Pharma has been reaching deep into your pocket for quite a few years now. This year, John Thune had the chance to demonstrate some South Dakota values by simply not opposing, not voting for, but just not opposing a $35 per month cap on insulin costs. Unfortunately, Washington John has taken nearly $500,000 from Big Pharma, including $2,500 from an insulin manufacturer just 5 days before voting to keep prices high for South Dakota diabetics, then another $2,500 about a month later. If you trust Washington John Thune will go back to the Senate and stand up for South Dakota values against big oil or big pharma, I'm not your guy. If you support John Thune getting politicians, police, and prosecutors involved in a woman's medical exam, I'm not your guy. But if you want a retired lieutenant colonel who was absolutely infuriated by big money elites buying our democracy and yet also respects a woman's right to privacy, I'm your guy. I'm Brian Banks. I served our great country for 26 years in the Navy and the Air Force, and it would be the privilege of my life to receive your vote as the next senator from South Dakota. Thanks for your consideration.
That will conclude our 2022 U.S. Senate debate. And again, I want to say thank you to all three of our candidates for participating this evening. Dakota News Now will rebroadcast tonight's debate Sunday afternoon at 1 Central, noon Mountain. And you can hear a rebroadcast of tonight's debate on SDPB Radio on Monday. That's noon Central, 11 Mountain, and again at 7 Central, 6 Mountain during In the Moment. Election Day is Tuesday, November 8th. You can follow SDPB's coverage throughout the evening with analysis during Wednesdays In the Moment. Until then, I'm Jackie Hendry, and on behalf of all of us at SDPB and Dakota News Now, thank you for watching. There we go.
On Masterpiece Mystery.
How I long to meet the lady detective.
Why are you following me?
Eliza, my world doesn't revolve around you. I have my own problems.
Hello, Father.
Where is Inspector Wellington?
The police commissioner gets what the police commissioner wants.
I will write this article, and either you will be my heroine, or Mr. Nash will be my hero.
May the best man win.
The Scarlet and the Duke on Masterpiece Mystery.
Sunday at 7, 6 Mountain, on South Dakota Public Broadcasting.